In a previous video where I made this sort of gear, we could see that the feed mechanism of the shaper sometimes did stop working with the new gear that's still inside here, of course. Now the fun is, in the comment section, and I check on my little paper here because I can't remember, someone commented, it's Tool Time Chris from the Netherlands. He's got exactly the same shaper machine and he's got exactly the same problem. He told me in the comments that sometimes the feed mechanism stops working, and he's asking me why it is possible, that what happens. Well, Chris, what we gonna do, I'm gonna take my shaper car apart again and we're gonna check it out together so everyone can see what's wrong with it and we'll fix it. I also received, and that's a while ago, and I hope Eddie will not be angry with me that I waited so long, I received stickers from Eddie. So Eddie, as you can see, your sticker is already on the cheap door, so nothing can happen to it, no problem. And he also sent me this really friendly little note with it, so that's for the stickers. I'm gonna take the feed mechanism of the shaper apart again and we'll see what we've got. Right, what you see here are just a few little pieces of shaper. The feed mechanism system that moves this way, not complicated. The sort of gear that goes in here, and then we have this, I suppose you're gonna call it a ratchet pin or something, that clicks in here in the teeth, and we see immediately that in fact it engages not deep enough. If we look closely, and I hope you can see it, we see that's lots of wear here on this side. It's even a bit out of square. So this I'm gonna touch off with a file or maybe on the belt sander. I don't know if it's hardened or not. So this needs some attention. And then the shaft, there's some dings in it, and when you put it in the wrong way, but when you put it in, you feel that it's a bit sloppy and it doesn't slide very well. So this shaft needs a bit attention too. The biggest problem is inside we find this crappy little stupid spring that should be a spring, but it doesn't even resemble a spring and it's very light. So this one should be changed. First I'm gonna work a bit this part, and then after we'll see for another spring. That was a quick fix, just a little bit of cleanup. I didn't took off too much of this because it's already too sloppy. And this side is a bit hardened. It's not terrible hard, but a little bit. I took an old file, not to screw up my beautiful new files. Take off this angle a bit, and then on the belt sander I cleaned up this side, and now it fits a little bit better, I suppose. So I think that will do. It engages about 1.5 millimeter. That should be enough. Now I looked around here to find a replacement for this crappy and disappointment little spring here that was inside, and of course I don't have. So I took my calipers and I measured the thickness, 0.29, 0.3 millimeter thick wire. So I needed a little bit thicker wire, and after a bit of looking around I found myself old guitar springs, and the biggest one, I'm gonna show you this side. I took off this spirally wire that's surrounded, and inside we found wire 0.45. It's not really thick, but it's already better than this spring that was inside. And then I made, I suppose everybody knows how to make springs. I made a little spring. It was easy to do. I put this one in the lathe, used the hole, put the wire through it. I will show you a little bit. Like this. And then with the hand, not with power, with hand I spinned, and then this is the result. Okay, it could maybe look a bit like a spring. You see that it's self-made, but here in our shop everything is all about self-made. Right, let's assemble this thing again and put it all back on the shaper and see if it works. You need small fingers to go in there, which I don't have. There you go. And then you have these nails. That seems to work. Good. Now there's this arrow. I'm gonna try to point it the right way. This goes that way. Okay. Before I continue, maybe an important message to Chris and all Hamburg machine owners. In this system you see that the key slot, the other side too, and this part is cracked. What's important when you take it apart is that the gear that's inside is aligned, slot over slot in line, otherwise you cannot take it apart because of course this little key is in here. So if it's not aligned, maybe you want to take a hammer or a crowbar or something, and then this happens. Don't worry, it was not me. When I took it apart I saw that it was cracked and there is paint in the crack, so this dates from before the 90s somewhere. So one day we'll get there. Told you we'll get there. Well, that seems to work fine. So indeed the spring tension is important in this case. So tool time, Chris, I hope this answers a little bit your questions. I suppose it's a good idea to have a look at this, and for all the Hembridge machine owners. Now, you could ask yourself, maybe, why did he put his little surface plate on the shaper? I would like to do the surface again, because I was never really happy with the finish on it. You feel when you use it that there is this striation in it, I suppose I call it striation. So not really happy. I'm gonna redo it. I have my tap shear tool here, which works perfectly fine. Not gonna use it. I have another shear tool here, works perfectly fine. Not gonna use it. I'm gonna use the Everett high-speed steel blank. I'm gonna cut it in two and make a shear tool out of it and see how it goes. And of course I forgot to mention that Tooltime Chris, he's got a YouTube channel too, so maybe it's a good idea to check him out. I will put a link to his channel in the description. And here's the shear tool I just made. It has a cutting angle of 70 degrees. So normally in the books it's marked 45 degrees, but I've seen that for this soft steel 45 doesn't work. So we're gonna give it a go with 70 degrees. And also, of course, a little bit of rake. I suppose this is the rake angle. Okay, let's install the thing and see what happens. Oh, I have to put the clapper box, of course, the other way, because this is the cutting side and we're gonna cut from here to there. Always look at the cut. The machine is all set up to make the cut. Now I'm gonna use a step over of 1/10 of a millimeter, and the workpiece is 210 millimeters wide, which means it's gonna take a bit more than 40 minutes to cut one time the surface. And I wanna do it in two cuts. First a roughing cut, about 1/10 of a millimeter. It will be a little bit more this side than this side, because I don't know why, but the part is a bit out of alignment, but that's okay. And then a second pass, a finishing pass, I'm gonna dial in about nothing, really a little bit. So two passes, two times more than 40 minutes. I'm gonna be here for a while, so better, let's go for it. The cutting tool is cutting not on every stroke. So sometimes you have this nice and beautiful chip, and then 2 or 3 strokes there's nothing, no chip at all, and then there's a really big one, and then there's a small one. Never seen that before. I don't know what's happening. Normally every stroke the chip should be the same, of course, but here is not, here is different. A part of the explanation could be, let me show you, this is the maximum travel of the table, can't go any further. So to be able to put the tool over the edge this side, I had to put it a little bit in an angle, which of course changes the geometry of the cutting tool. So what I'm gonna do, before I take the second pass, I'm gonna put this clapper straight, which is gonna move the tool a little bit more to the left, and then I can put it nice and square with the work, and that I hope will be better. I took one roughing pass and then I had to regrind the tool because the cutting edge was a little bit dull again. And then I took a finishing pass and a spring pass in the other direction, and we see that the tool, of course, camera you cannot see it, but I see this a little flat spot in here. So for making these big cuts, to cut this surface, this is 2100 strokes, of course. So the tool doesn't stand too well. I think this is good to make roughing tools, but as a shear tool, it's maybe not terrible. Well, it could be good for smaller parts, but for this big thing, it's not terrible. Now, the finish, I think is not bad. I hope it shows a bit. It looks shiny, but you still have these lines in here. Does that give something? No. Okay, I think it was interesting to try it out. So now we know. And for now, something completely different. We all know this little trick if we want to drill a hole in the center of a shaft or a pipe. We all use the little ruler trick and then put the center drill down. Try to line it out as good as we can, and then this is maybe a good system, but it's never precise. And then especially when you turn on the machine with the vibrations, this vise is moving, so we never perfectly in center. Now I have this little machine for more than 15 years. I drilled thousands of holes with it. And it's only last week that I saw that in fact this side here is machined. Which means if I want the center of my part here, all I have to do is take my square, put it square with the table, and I have a line perfectly in center. Took me 15 years to find out. Why didn't you tell me before?